37 years. Wow, that's more than I've been alive.
It has been an absolute pleasure to have worked with you.
I wanted to say thank you.
Truly gonna miss you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the fun the last 5 years.
Congratulations on your retirement.
We're all gonna miss you.
Hi, Pat. I'd like to start off by saying how much I've appreciated your guidance over the years. I've learned so much from you as a geoscientist and as a mentor, and I can't thank you enough for everything you've done to help me start my career at Shell. It's also been a real treat to get to learn the ropes from you as a part of your exploration team over the last year. Congratulations on your retirement. I so hope you enjoy it. Before you go, I'd like to ask you one question, and that is, what attribute or skill that you've developed has helped you the most over your long career, and why?
Hey Casey, thanks for the question. What skill has helped me the most? I guess in 37 years, I think the ability to adapt to both the changing technical environment and the changing business environment, I think is a skill that it serves employees really well, because things advance so quickly, both technology and also what's where the prospects are and where you want to be exploring. So when I started, it was 2D on paper. I had an advantage. I took a lot of cartography classes and geography, so I liked mapping, from way back. Then I've, was able to move around in geophysics, processing, seismic acquisition. Then in interpretation, I was able, on the exploration side, on the development side, even in production, looking at old fields. So I got to see quite a few different things, depending on what was hot at the time. I tried to adapt my skills to what the company was looking for at that time. Also, your geologic skills, you're going to see a bunch of different environments. Start out in deltaics on the shelf in the Gulf of Mexico, switched to turbidites, went back to deltaics in the Sakhalin project, and then spent some time over doing Aeolian in the Norphlet, which was new and unique. So, don't be afraid to retool your toolkit throughout your career. It's going to be important if you want to stick around for a long time and make big contributions all the way through your career, depending on what's required. So you just have to keep changing with the changing technology and changing business climate. So, thanks.
Pat Jackson, what a guy. First time I met Pat, I was in the middle of applying to grad schools for geology. After sharing a bit about my backgrounds and interests, Pat asked if I had considered being a geophysicist. After only 30 minutes, Pat made quite a compelling case to be a geophysicist, just like him. That very next week, I took Pat's advice and I applied to geophysical schools. That led me to a program where I got my geophysics degree, I met my future wife, and I ended up working at Shell full-time as a geophysicist. All thanks to you, Pat. Pat, you've given so many of us such great advice over the years. My question to you is, what's some of the best advice you got throughout your career? Thanks, Pat. We're all gonna miss you.
Hey, Reese. What is some of the best advice I've received in my career? I could think of two examples of advice. I've gotten a lot of good advice, peers and mentors and some of the advisors and older staff that I've worked with. But I can think of my very first boss. His name was Bert Larberg. He'd only been with the company 6 years, and he was the chief geologist. When I showed up, there was a big turnover in staff, and everybody was very young. And I was one of the last ones in 1983 of the big wave of people. And Bert was my first boss, and he advised me that throughout your career, you're going to get some jobs that you don't want. And when you get those jobs that you don't want, you work very hard, do an awesome job at that, so that the next job you get is something that better fits, what you really do want. So, don't give up, because you're going to have a lot of different jobs throughout your career, and some of them you're not going to be too excited about, might not be the sexiest thing, but always do your best, and from that you will progress into something as good or better in your next role. And then I got some advice. There was a research geologist, Rufus LeBlanc, taught all the shallow water classics to all the new hires, and he was known, especially in his later years, to ramble in some of his lectures, but he'd always have a few tidbits in there, just from the 30 to 40 years he'd been with Shell. And he advised that Shell is a big company, and this big company has some bad bosses. So throughout your career, you're gonna get some bosses that might not fit with you too well. He said, but the good thing is Shell's a big company, and you know what? You're gonna get a new boss before too much longer. So don't worry if you've got somebody that's not the perfect boss. No boss is perfect. But get along with your boss, have good communication with them, and even if your personalities clash, don't fret too much about it, because that boss is probably moving on before too much longer. So those were two pieces of advice throughout my career that kind of stuck with me.
Hi Pat, I wanted to say thank you for the time we had together on the Mesozoic team. Hopefully you remember all the fun we had together drilling Castle Valley and Fort Sumter. But anyway, I wanted to say thank you for the time that we had together, because you taught me a lot about practicality and the most important piece of communication, which is listening. So my question for you, as you head off to retirement, is what is the most impactful interaction you've ever had with a colleague, and how has that affected you?
There's a lot of great interactions that you have with other colleagues, leaders, your staff. Most of them, the great majority of interactions are all positive, but one impactful interaction that you have that you'll never forget is the interactions that you have during the termination of an employee, and it's tough on the employee, and it's tough on you, and and you have to be prepared for the whole range of reactions. Sometimes it's not a technical fit. If somebody can't make their seismic and their maps match, can't incorporate the wells correctly, it's just a fundamental thing that every geoscientist with Shell needs to do. Sometimes it's a behavioral fit. Nobody wants a hostile work environment. Nobody wants an environment with harassment or discrimination. You're going to work with all kinds of people from all over the world, and everybody needs to work together really well. And that is an interaction that it'll always stay with you, each one of them, and it emphasizes the importance of recruiting. We need to bring in the right people who are developing the right interests and the right set of skills, starting in college. So let's get it right to bring the right people in, and therefore you have to do much less of that if you've got great recruits. As far as the impact on me, I guess It's always hard, but I'm okay with it, letting people go if that is, if it's due to non-performance and but you'll never get used to it. I always scored high on the Shell People survey when they used to have a question about addressing non-performance. But you shouldn't underestimate the detrimental impacts to the team when everybody knows someone is not performing. I think it's, if you don't address it head on, usually a person's given, 2 shots. If you don't make it with this supervisor, go over to this one and for a second opinion. So people are given chances, but the team and the people that work around with everyone else, they know if there's a performance issue, and it really hacks the team off, and it does stress the team because other people have to work a lot harder if there's an issue within the team. Either they have to pick up the technical slack, or they have to deal with an environment that's just not right or conducive to success. So that is probably the most impactful interactions that I've had that I'll always remember. Thanks.
Hi, Pat. Here is one of your many Longhorn campus recruit. I am making this video because I wanted to thank you for the great opportunity to open the doors for me at Shell. I know you love to tell the story that I got this job because I stalked you for a full day during the interview period, but I have to say that you were kind enough to give me a chance, and you opened the doors for me. So thank you. Best 20 years that I can ask from a job. So thank you so much. And here is my question to you. I have been hearing a lot within the system, people that perhaps is 2 levels below you always say, I will keep this job and I will stay in this team as long as Pat is the manager. So it's pretty remarkable for me to hear people 2 levels below you still feeling that passion from having you as their leader. So I wanted to ask, what are the ingredients that define this Pat factor to create that success and that following that you have from your staff? Thank you, Pat. And I have repeated this video 5 times, so I have already like 5 sips, but I wanted to congratulate you. Cheers. Best of luck. Thank you.
Hey, Helena. Thanks for the question. So what makes, a good leader? First of all, I think, it starts with the leader themselves. I think a person needs to like their job. I think they need to be excited about it. And, that will rub off on everybody within the team. If you're excited about it and looking at different things and asking a lot of questions, people are going to, respond and get just as excited. Another thing I've found that if you set high expectations for your staff, they will live up to it. Whether those expectations be, technical or delivery wise or behavior wise. Be clear about, what you're looking for in people, because it's not only for you and the team, it's for that person and how they develop. So if you just have to give people, clear feedback about how they can improve and how best to contribute. And what I find is people, they live up to the atmosphere that you set. And I think what makes a good leader is, what makes a difference in the company? How can you impact the performance of a company? For us, it's delivering new discoveries, delivering a new trend, delivering, value to the company such that the company's still around. I've seen a lot of companies go out of business in the Gulf of Mexico, and it's typically because they have poor explorers. Good explorers promote a growth company. And if you've got explorers out there having discoveries, you're going to have a very successful company. So get out there, explore, have fun doing it, be excited about it, and work as a team, and then you'll be successful. Thanks.
Hey, Pat. Congratulations on your retirement of a very long and successful career. 37 years. Wow. That's more than I've been alive. You and I first met back in 2008 at a undergraduate research event at The Ohio State University. Obviously, I was still an undergrad then, so I wasn't eligible for any sort of internship opportunities in the geosciences. But a few summers later, when I was eligible and in graduate school, you took a chance on me and had a few successful internships, and obviously now a full-time employee of UPX. It's been a great run so far, and I appreciate you taking the chance on me. But the question I'd like to ask you in your retirement is there any particular decision that you feel was the most rewarding of your career, whether it be drilling APO appraisal wells or winters in Sakhalin? Appreciate the feedback. So once again, congratulations and enjoy your retirement.
The decision that was most rewarding in my career, there was a joint decision with my wife to pursue an international assignment. There was a French geologist down the hall from me, Jacopo Spindler, and he came down and he said, there's a project that's funded for the next 3 or 4 years. It's called Sakhalin 2. You would be a great fit for it, so you should put your name in the hat and pursue that job. And I got some good references, called up Lloyd Williams, who was a hiring manager, had a good discussion with him, and ended up moving to the Netherlands. And I think that was probably the best decision I made. Great lifestyle. Rode my bike to work for 7 years. My kids were both born in the Netherlands. My wife learned how to speak Dutch. I worked with staff from across the globe. And when I grew up, it was always, the Americans versus the Russians. Made a lot of great Russian friends. Had a great time, in Moscow, recruiting at Tomsk University, going to Sakhalin Island, not only to Yuzhno in the south, but also to field trips from 2003 to 2007, going all the way up to the northern end of the island and back. So that was an awesome time, great cultural experience. I would highly recommend to young staff, try to get an overseas assignment sometime in your career. Very rewarding, not only professionally, but as a person and a citizen of the world. So, thanks.
Pat, first of all, I just want to say thank you. Because of you, I ended up at Shell, and thank you also for the mentoring you've given me throughout the years. Truly going to miss you, and I'm super happy for you to move on to the next chapter of your life. So anyway, my question for you is, what's one regret? What's one thing that you look back upon and think I would have done differently? It doesn't necessarily have to be within Shell, but just over your life that we can maybe learn from you.
What's one regret I had at Shell? I would say probably I started in seismic acquisition working with the crew in 1986. I was an onboard geophysicist, so I did a rotation, 2 weeks offshore, 2 weeks in the office, and 2 weeks off. It was great because you had hardly any vacation back then. We didn't have every other Friday off. So I got to see the operation up close. I would say our safety record was not good. People were getting hurt. We could not get either crew to attain 100,000 hours without a lost time incident. and that was just kind of the way it was. And then I went to an acquisition workshop in The Hague in 1989. Woody Nesvold was our chief geophysicist. He talked to all the acquisition guys across the globe. He was really raking some people over the coals, particularly those operations with fatalities on them. And the light bulb really came on in my head about, hey, this is important. We need to get it right, or we won't be able to continue the way that we're going. So when I came back after that acquisition workshop, I did the tour guides, and I started putting our safety record on the front of the tour guides that we issued every 2 to 3 weeks whenever the vessel would come in. And it wasn't real popular at first. People were a little upset that we were putting that right up front. But I tell you what, it really raised the profile, and our performance improved. The more we talked about it, the more people cared about it. The crews reacted to come up to our expectations. So I think my regret is that I didn't really, it didn't really click for the first several years I was working in operations, how important that is to get right, both with seismic operations and with drilling wells. And you got to be right on top of everything. You got to be right in there with the guys in the field. They put their lives on the line every day to do what you're telling them to do. So you really have to pay attention to it. You have to show that you care, and you have to make sure that all those people that are under your responsibility come home safely. So I regret that the light bulb didn't come on a few years earlier than it really did. But I appreciated that acquisition workshop. It helped me quite a bit. Thanks.
Hey Pat, just wanted to say thank you for all the fun the last 5 years. I really admire how you coach and how you interact with the co-owners and seek out that deal space, and basically how you drive the business forward. So, quick question for you. What should exploration do to really flourish in the next decade? Thanks.
So, thanks for the question, Meta. What should exploration do to flourish in the next decade? And I would say there's a lot of elements to success for a company. I think for exploration, the availability of rigs is key to our success. You don't want to drill too few wells because then you get into gambler's ruin, where we're in a very risky business, and most of the things we're drilling are 0.25 to 45% chance of success. So if you're only doing 2 or 3 wells a year, you're really going to struggle to survive. So I think having active rigs out there, it's hard to get on them during the good times, and there's plenty of slots when things tighten up. So having the availability of rigs to drill wells and position yourself for success. Another thing is to have good partners or co-owners, commercial partners that, we only have so much budget to drill wells, and they're risky. And the riskier they are, the lower the working interest percentage you want. So it's good to have co-owners that you trust, and the ones that you've built good relationships with. And it's always good to have an outside perspective to keep you honest. And other companies have different cultures, and they think about things a little bit differently than you do. So it's always good to have an outside perspective and somebody to share the risk. Another thing is a key element is the leadership of exploration. Whatever exploration's leadership is focused on, the staff will respond. If the leadership wants great PBE, there'll be great PBE. If the leadership wants good near field exploration, that's what people will come forward with. What we need to do to flourish in the longer term, there's no getting around that we need to find bigger volumes. That's how you stay in business. If you don't have a primo exploration department that's finding volumes, then you are going to go out of business. So we need to find big things to flourish. We need to open up new trends, and if we're not in there first, we're at least fast following. So and if leadership points us in that direction, I think the explorers will respond. But I think the main essential element to success is the explorers that you develop. So if you're not teaching your staff how to find oil, it's not a natural skill that people develop. And optimism is another. Maybe it's not a skill, but it's a necessity that you need to have about what is possible. Because there's a lot of people that will tell you why it's going to fail, why it's not possible. But do you have the right people and the personalities in there that will push what might be possible to have breakthroughs in the company? And so we need explorers bringing good wells forward. We need explorers who are resilient to failure, because when you're drilling things of low probability of success, you have to be able to accept, you're gonna have a lot of failures in your career, and you can't let it get you down. And we need explorers that are going to bring successful projects forward, discoveries. And if we want to be successful in the next decade, develop those explorers and nourish them and such that they will bring these opportunities forward, and don't stop after the first well, 2 wells. Usually it takes 2, 3, 5 wells to open up a new trend and to try to make things work. So that's how I think exploration will flourish in the next decade. Thanks.
Mr. Jackson, it has been an absolute pleasure to have worked with you. I worked with you from 2014 to 2017 in the Norphlet in the Gulf of Mexico, and we had a great time. I learned a huge amount from you about leadership and about the subsurface. And you've been the best team leader that I've ever had in my career so far. And my question to you is this: you've drilled some great wells in your career. And if someone was evaluating a prospect, what one bit of advice would you give for identifying the right thing to drill? What would you look for? All the best, Pat. Enjoy this fabulous next stage in your life, and gonna miss you.
Hey Christian, so how do we choose the right wells to drill? That is the most important decision that we make. I had one vice president that always kept saying, the hits got to keep on coming. Because we have to keep drilling discoveries to be a viable business. So it is the most important thing we do, is choosing which wells to drill. And my advice would be, first of all, to listen to your oil finders. When I was looking for oil, and there was a discovery someplace, I would go visit with whoever was put together that project and found that oil, and say, hey, what are you looking for? What tools are you using? How are you looking at the data? Just so I could learn from some of those that have come before me and people that are being successful. Ted Godo used to have his office right next to me over in New Orleans. real good oil finder. Fred Becker, he and I hired on about the same time. He kept a scorecard. He was like, here's all my discoveries, here's the barrels. I'll put my scorecard up against anybody. So listen to those guys that are out there and focused on finding oil. That will give you hints on what you need to be looking for in your particular trends. I also, here in the last few assignments in the Gulf of Mexico, the RXCs were a great resource for me. I worked with Phil in the appraisal team, great oil finder. Rob, he teamed up with Ted for a long time. Those guys drilled a lot of wells together. So really respected their advice on the different prospects, and if those guys typically bought in, I knew I had a winner that I could push through the system. Another thing, look at your seismic. You don't find prospects anyplace else but on your seismic. And in the early days of my career, when we'd get in these regional data sets, it was a race. Everybody would run and get the data to come up with the prospects first. Because if you get a prospect, get your name on it, you work it up, and you got the drill site. So look at your data, and when we buy data, the worst thing we can do is not look at it, because the company is investing money, and that's what we're investing the money for, is to look at that seismic and find some prospects. Know your area, know what's working, what's the new discovery, and how does that relate to everything around it. If you've got unique knowledge, you need to capitalize on it, because it's not going to be unique for very long. So you really need to jump on things. Everything you do in exploration is time sensitive. And I guess the last thing would be to believe in the things that you're drilling. I mean, what I hate to see are geoscientists that go through their whole career and never drill a well. You should be out there looking for things. This is our core job, to find oil. What's working, what makes a good prospect, and you have to bring those forward, because that is your reputation that you put on the line every time you propose a drill site. It's serious stuff. It's a big investment for the company, and your success and our success, I cheer for every well, because I've seen, every well that we're successful, we've got a viable business. And I've seen, where we've had 3-4 years in a row, all dry holes, and it starts getting kind of grim. Because you just can't support the number of staff. So we need to find oil. We need to bring barrels to the table to be a viable business for our longevity. And I think we have the people that can do that to keep, our success going on into the future. Thanks.